Welcome to Just a Dog podcast. I'm your host, Nadine. Today I'm speaking with Sam Walker-Arends, known to many as Sam the dog coach. Sam is a force-free trainer and canine behaviour practitioner who works with dogs and their humans to build calmer, kinder and safer households. Her work spans puppy development, behaviour consults, separation anxiety support, and the messy, real-life situations that never fit neatly into training manuals. Sam also has 2 rescue sighthounds of her own, Ivy the greyhound and Reyna the Galgo, whose stories shape much of her practice. What I admire about Sam is her honesty and vulnerability. There's no quick fixes here, no performative confidence. Her approach is grounded in compassion, science, and a deep respect for individual dogs, especially those who arrive in our homes with history on their bodies and their nervous systems. In this conversation, we explore what safety means for a dog, how fear sits in the body, why so many guardians feel overwhelmed, and what it really looks like to support a dog who is learning to trust again. We also talk about fostering and the emotional reality of making choices that put a dog's well-being ahead of our own expectations. It is a gentle, searching episode that invites you to slow down and look more closely at the dogs in your life. Not through an obedience lens, but through a human one. Let's begin. Sam, welcome to Just a Dog podcast. I would love to know more about your journey with Project Galgo, but also how you became a dog trainer and behaviourist.
Actually, I used to be an actor back in the day and puppeteer really randomly. So I did some acting, some puppetry, real variety of stuff, but always on the side was dogs. So it used to be that I was a dog walker and then I did holiday dog stays and I had a few clients whose dogs would come and stay with us when they were on holiday. And then I just loved dogs. I remember my husband saying to me, "You are always at your happiest when you are with or talking about dogs." So then I started doing short behavioral courses just for fun, did a whole variety of different things, diplomas, and then got a larger diploma with the ISCP. Again, that was really useful. That was in 2020, and I just had the time because of all the lockdowns and stuff. So I did a lot of studying then and started sort of tentatively with puppy classes and then started taking on, the odd behavioral course and just sort of grown from then, really. Yeah. And the enrichment videos were mainly for my fun. But yeah, really glad that people find them useful because I think there is a real, I don't want to say gap, but people often don't know what to do with their dogs and they buy all these expensive toys that dogs will play with for once or twice and then that's it. Or they feel like they have to do far more with their dogs outside and take them here and there and do the errands with them and go running with and for the majority of dogs, actually, it's just far too much and just living in our world is far too much. So just having simple activities that you can do with home, the stuff you've already got in the house, Amazon boxes and packaging and towels and whatever, egg boxes and all of this. It's something nice that you can do. It's great if there's kids in the house because it's a nice little crafty thing that kids can do, and it's just a nice way for dogs to use some of those natural instincts, the sniffing, the tearing, the chewing, the searching and finding. I love doing treat searches in the garden. Call them treasure hunts, and my 3-year-old does them at the moment every day. She asks if she can do a treasure hunt for the dogs and she'll hide food all around the garden, and it's great. But all of those things are brilliant, just ways for dogs to just decompress and let out a little bit of innate dogness.
Some drive.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I've recently realized that whenever Duna has a treat search or does a treat search, as you call it, she relieves herself soon after.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's like something in her brain goes,
Yeah, definitely. I always find that, like, if they're on strike, mine, say if there's fireworks, they're a bit unsure about going out for a wee. And if I can get them sniffing, like if I can throw some treats and they're sniffing at the grass, they nearly always will then do a wee. So just that sort of concentration on sniffing and finding something will often, sniffing it does actually lower the heart rate, lower the blood pressure. So I think it is sort of, if dogs aren't quite feeling, if their brain is somewhere else, it will help just relax them enough to go, okay,
The magical powers of olfactory. um, so I was just listening to your podcast episode with just the dog, that dog.
With the wonderful Harriet.
Yes, I think you
Yay.
recorded it during COVID
Yeah,
time, and so I learned a
she's
little bit
great.
more about your both of your dogs.
Mhm.
So we've got Ivy and Reyna.
Yeah,
I think you had the dogs before you became a mum.
yeah.
So how did that change your perspective over
Oh,
time?
yeah. Do you know what? Being a mum and also being a mum to, well, two little girls now. I've got 1 and a 3-year-old, and also to dogs and the chickens. It's been very humbling actually, because when I just had the dogs, I already was, advising people on how to prepare dogs for babies and children and ways that children can interact with dogs. This was before I even had children myself. And a lot of that has come in really useful. It's been wonderful, but also tough. But yeah, I guess to go back, we started with just Ivy. So we adopted her 2018, start of 2019, I think. She's an ex-racing greyhound. Typical ex-racer, immediately jumped on our beds, tried to eat all our pizza, just made herself right at home immediately, loves a sofa. Yeah, loves a bit of fuss, a bit wary around other dogs, who certain ex-racing traits that you see, where they've not been socialized very well. Yeah, she's been great. And yeah, we had her for about a year or so. And then we decided to foster. And we fostered Reyna. It wasn't Project Galgo at the time, it became Project Galgo, but it was Helena who runs Project Galgo. So that was who I had my dealings with. And we sort of said, we'd like to foster. We have this greyhound who likes some dogs, doesn't like all dogs. She sort of likes like old, nervous dogs that are just going to mainly leave her alone. And she said, I think Reyna might be really great. She's really timid. Let's see how they get on. And they got on really well. They're not besties, but they really cohabit really well. Yeah, we fostered her and we did intend to really just foster. I am a failed foster. And she just was so scared of everyone, Reyna. She's missing an ear.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm sure you're aware, a lot of the galgos we get, it's quite common, they're missing an ear. It's a punishment that they seem to get where, yeah, they're getting a cut off, which is awful. Some of them have no ears. And yeah, poor Reyna's just got one ear, covered in scars. She's got like a weird hip, and there's all sorts going on with her, bless her. And but just so gentle, so timid. Was very scared of myself and my husband at first. We just hide under the table, but very slowly began to trust us. And yeah, very much a flight risk. We got the attractive tracker straight away. It was very much like if you get the fight, flight, freeze, she's a flighter. Like if she gets a spook, she's gone. But I think we only made it about 2 weeks in, and my husband said, should we keep her? Which is awful, because I respect people who foster so much. It's so difficult to bring a dog into your home and give it love and help it and support it. And then to, move it along, I just think is such a skill, and so noble. And I wish that I could have done it, but we just fell in love with her. And I think because Ivy was very unsure about most dogs, but actually there was just no dramas. They just seemed to cohabit really, really nicely. We're like, yeah, let's keep her. So she's been with us since, and yeah, she's great. Still nervous, not of us.
Is she?
She's so much better. She's so much better. It used to be that and we're very lucky that her way of dealing with her nervousness is just to remove herself. She's not a barker or growler. She just will hide. But if we had someone over initially, she would hide the other side of the house under a table. Or at the point where she will be in the room. If we have a visitor over or friends over, she will be in the room. She's a bit unsure. And if they get up, she might get up as well, but then she'll settle again. She has got a bigger circle. So some members of our family now, she's a a lot, she will actually sit with them and get up on the sofa with them. So her circle has gotten bigger. She would never let a stranger stroke her, but that's just her. And you look at her and you see all of her scars and you think, yeah, I get it. Well, she needs time to know that they're safe. Great with the kids, really, really great with the kids, in that they are good with her. Like, I like to think I manage the situation well, and they're very my 3-year-old is incredibly gentle with them. If if my kids are playing and the noise is a bit much, she will just remove herself. She just gets up and goes to a different room. Like, she just knows when things are getting too much. But aside from that, she's just, yeah. We used to, when I had the baby camera, sometimes I check the baby cam and she's worked her way into the room and she's just sniffing the baby through the bars just to make sure she's okay before she goes to bed. But when she was found roaming the streets in Spain, she had puppies with her. So she does definitely seem, when we have a baby in the house, she's very much, it's the only time she gets very woofy, in terms of, she very much, like, if we're on a walk, she'll just woof to the outside world. It's like letting her know, like, I don't know, because we have the baby with us in the carrier, she just becomes very, I guess, protective, but she very much seems to be very interested and fond of the little babies. And actually, if we have small children over, she's not scared of them. It's very much just grown-up people who obviously at some point have hurt her that, yeah, she's wary of.
Duna, the other day on a walk, we could hear a baby crying. I think the mum was probably putting the baby into the car, and the kid was just, crying their little heart out. And Duna was just like, it was almost like she was concerned. She was pointing her entire body towards the car, and she just kept looking at me like, and I thought to myself, oh, there's something there, because when she sees a group of children, loud children, she'll avoid them.
Yeah. It's a lot for them. Children are loud, unpredictable, in their movements, what they say, what they're gonna do. They are, at a certain age, they are very wobbly on their feet. They fall over a lot. It's tough for them, and this is all quite new. So I'm gonna, this is coming from an honest place, because this is all very, like, happened in the last week or two new. But so Ivy now is about 11, sort of, yeah, 11. And I feel like she's not really a kid dog. She likes people who are going to give her food. She likes a bit of fuss. She's like, she's always been fine with children. She's not a dog that enjoys children. If they've got food for her, she'll want the food. Aside from that, she's never, when we used to visit see my niece and nephew, she'd always just keep her distance. When we had one baby, I felt like managed it. Once she realized the baby wasn't really doing much, bored of it. When we had one toddler, I felt like we managed the situation. It was all okay. Then we had a newborn and a toddler. And again, I felt like, management. Then now we've got 2 toddlers that are running around and screaming and playing and falling over and doing all sorts. Myself, my husband have definitely sensed Ivy is making it very clear that she is not happy with the chaos, the situation. She won't remove herself like Reyna, though. So we have had a couple of, like, snaps, which have been quite upsetting, because also I'd never want to be putting Ivy in a situation where she's getting that stressed. And we have tried a lot of management. We've got baby gates everywhere. We've got the dog beds. They're allowed on our beds. So we've tried, when we're in the living room, the dogs have the run of the rest of the house, because all of us being in one room, I know my dog, Ivy was, yawning and looking a bit unsure, and you can tell when your dog just isn't, and it's nothing my children are doing. They're not even touching her. They're just having fun together. So we tried a lot of management, and Ivy struggles with that because she just wants to be with us. She will eventually settle. She just looks a bit unhappy about it. And this has been going on for a little while. And obviously, like, right now, my kids are at nursery and she's having a lovely time just in the peace. And I try and take them, on lovely long walks when I can, and give, enrichment and chews. And in the summer, it was fine because we had the garden they could just relax in. And, I'm trying to do, like, all of the things I have advised other people to do. And then there gets to a point where myself and my husband had this talk, and we're like, I don't think she's very happy here at the moment. Sorry.
That's so tough because she's been there for so long before the kids, and then, oh, you're
I'm
making me
sorry.
emotional because I mean, it's such a hard decision to make, isn't it? Like, what's best for your family and then what's best
I
for
will totally
Ivy.
persevere. I'm like, it's fine. I can make it work. On 2 hours sleep, it's fine. I've got it. Choose upstairs. Kids downstairs. The 3-year-old now, obviously, she opens the doors and is like, I need a wee. And then the dogs run up down. So it's honestly, it's just
Yeah.
constant like management. I would feel like it's fine. She's an old girl now. I will manage it. But then we have this option where my mum and dad adore her. She's actually stayed with them while we've been on holiday. And they very lucky they have a lovely big garden. They split their time. They spend a lot of the time in the Lake District where they've got a lovely bit of land. They've got a dog that she gets on well with. And they have said, well, look, she can come and stay with us. And then when we go on holiday, she comes back down to you. So it'll be a bit of a timeshare situation. Which
Yeah.
is so, it's sort of, if I'm thinking just about the fact, I'm thinking, oh, she'd much prefer that because my mum and dad are retired. They're in the house a lot. They have another dog she gets on well with. It's peaceful. She won't be bothered by constant noise and this and that and being woken up in the night. She will be actually, she gets spoiled rotten. They give her so many treats. So she will be happier. And when she comes down to visit us, she'll be like, oh, I'm here again. But when I think with emotion behind it, and I think about the fact that we've had her now, for 7, 8 years, and she's an old girl, and the sort of the path that you want to take with your dog as they reach old age, this was not it. But I think you have to like remove your own sort of ego and emotion from it and just look at the facts. My husband said, "No, what would you say if this was a client and they were explaining to you all the management and all the things that they were doing?" And I would say, well, I would say to them, I think actually spending the majority of time with parents was the best thing, you know, and you have to sort of, yeah, do that. Because selfishly, I'm like, she's my dog. I want it to stay with me. I'll manage it.
Yeah.
But also, it's not really fair on her. It's not really fair on the kids. So I think that's will be the way forward. And if there's emotion coming out, it's because this is literally an ongoing conversation at the moment.
Yeah, it's very raw, and you're right in the thick of it, and having to make that decision is not
Yeah.
easy. Just isn't. Luckily, you do
I
have
have
an
a very good
alternative option.
option where she'll still be in our lives and will still come and stay with us, but she will have more peace. It's been very humbling though, because part of my job has been visiting people who have been struggling with integrating dogs and children and preparing their dogs for children. And you feel like when you're doing that, you feel like I've got this, and I have been using all of the tools, and it's just gotten to a point where at the moment, at this current stage that we're in, actually is impacting on her quality of life. And I feel like there is a
Okay.
better option for her currently. And who knows, then things might change again, if she hopefully will have more time with her. But at this current moment, I think that is looking best. But it has been quite humbling, definitely.
I think it's amazing how you've been able to tune into them, to really read Ivy, to really pick up on, what her needs are as well. Because I think typically what would happen is there would be frustration that builds in the owner or the guardian, because maybe fear, not really understanding. So, maybe the dog would reach the bottom of their stress bucket and then, growl
Yeah.
or snap or whatever, and it would feel like this enormous, huge problem. But people might not understand how that came to
Mm.
be because it's not an instant thing, right? It
Yeah.
kind of happens gradually over time. They reach their limit, and then it's like, you're not listening
Yeah.
to me, or I think it's amazing that you tune in to their needs and realize what's causing
Mm.
this particular expression, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think with Ivy, that's exactly it. She's just, for a lot of dogs, it wouldn't be that a big deal, but for whatever reason, and also I think she's becoming a bit more intolerant and she's getting older. I also should say that we're having a full blood work done just to make sure that there isn't anything else going on. She doesn't seem in any pain, but I would always say if there has been any change in behavior, yeah, definitely vet check. But she just seems that even being within the room with the kids, I'm seeing the signs that she's at her limit. She just seems like a coiled spring. So it's been tough, but it's really important that's part of my job, is helping people breed their dogs, because I'll get emails that will say, oh, my dog has always been great with my kids, and then all of a sudden they've snapped, or all of a sudden they've done this, and they've always been fine with being stroked. And actually, when you talk in more depth, I think the dog has been tolerating a lot. And I think that there is this thing, we expect our dogs to tolerate, a lot. And some will tolerate a huge amount, and some will tolerate and then not really go up that ladder, or go up that ladder very slowly. But other dogs, their tolerance runs thin, and for whatever reason, they try and communicate with us in different ways. We often miss that, or we don't understand that. I think that's it with most people. I think with some people that there is this expectation of, well, dogs should be good with this, and dogs should be able to do this, and then you're into different territory then. But I think for the majority of people, they do want the best for their dogs, but they will just not be able to read that situation. They won't understand that their dog is just tolerating a situation, but not enjoying it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Just out of curiosity, is it possible to teach resilience to an older dog, or resilience in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always resilience that can be built, but then I'm thinking like with Ivy, I do think as she's gotten older, she has just become maybe a little bit more intolerant. But it's dog to dog. Every dog's different. And I think of the journey that Reyna's been on. She wasn't old when we got her. She was maybe 7, but maybe she would have had, been more comfortable with people if she'd come to us when she was younger. But she still has gone on this huge journey where definitely her fear levels have reduced significantly, and she's a much happy and more confident dog. But part of that is knowing her. Like, I would never expect her to come to a pub with me, because I just know it's just not her. And I think some of the work that I do is when we get a dog, whether we get a puppy or whatever dog we get, it's looking at the dog, and sometimes it's changing our expectations of what we want, which can be quite upsetting at times. I think people will have this real idea of, I really want my dog to be able to come to the pub with me on Sunday and go on holidays with my friends and their dogs and kids, and they'll have all these expectations. And sometimes dogs will be fine with that. Some dogs will love it. Some dogs love doing all those things and being really social and getting out and going to pubs. And then for other dogs, it's just not for them. And I think you can get them to a certain point, and it won't be saying, well, all your dog can do is be at home. It's like it's thinking, well, okay, well, what is it you'd like to do with your dog? And then seeing if there's some compromise to be made there, and thinking, well, I think it's possible that your dog could get to this stage. You want, like, I used to run I do run, but I've been on maternity leave, but social walks for nervous dogs. And I would get people contacting me whose dogs, they would walk their dogs at 5 a.m, and their dogs would never see other dogs because they were scared what the reaction would be. And they were like, my dog just never meets other dogs, and I feel really nervous about it. And they would come along on my walks, and we would meet probably about anywhere between 5 and 8 of us. And we would just walk together. And it was amazing that actually, because they weren't meeting face to face, we were meeting and then walking together as a group. We would go on this like woodland walk. There would be treat searchers along the walk. At the end, there'd be a little puppuccino. So there'd be lots of nice things dotted around. Dogs had a great time. And actually, within a few weeks, they were so comfortable with the other dogs that they had met before, because they knew in that context, I'm safe. This dog isn't going to run at me. We're going to do nice things. So it's all about context and where you want to get to. But in that situation, the dogs actually could form a little bit of a social group and walk together. And these owners never thought their dogs would be able to walk with another dog.
It's interesting, because that's kind of made me think about a previous conversation I had on the podcast. It was about whether or not dogs actually benefit from, want to, and should socialize with their own kind.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you've created that walk. What are your thoughts on that? Is it necessary that they meet and socialize with their own kind?
Firstly, the walk is such a small part of their day. The majority of the day is going to be spent at home. So if you're looking at, I have this dog and I want to make sure they're having this lovely fulfilled life, I definitely would start with making sure they're comfortable and happy and safe and enriched at home. Also, it totally depends on dogs. Some dogs are so super social. They love seeing other dogs and running around. With that, you have to make sure they're not being rude to other dogs, but they love their social circle. They love meeting other dogs. I definitely, and I would put my two dogs as part of it. They enjoy each other. They enjoy my mum and dad's dog. Their circle is very small and they don't have any desire when we're out to go towards another dog. They will definitely just avoid it. They just don't care. They don't. And actually they did quite enjoy the social walks because there was space, because it was a small group, because there was treats, because they felt safe. But they're not dogs that hugely love socializing. And actually I do think that it's very sad. I meet a lot of people who, with the best will in the world, I'll give an example of what might happen. But this situation has happened so many times, that people will get a puppy, and then the puppy gets to maybe like 3-4 months old, and then they might start sending it to a daycare. And I should say that some daycares are brilliant, and I have worked with some daycare owners, and yeah, they're great, and the dogs have a wonderful time, and they choose what dog should be there very well. There are some daycares though, the whole push is socializing the dogs and dogs having fun. And these owners will send their dogs off to daycare with the best will in the world, that their dogs are going to be socialized and meet other dogs and have a great time. And often they'll be in these really big groups of dogs, big dogs, small dogs, maybe some dogs that don't like other dogs and really shouldn't be there, and they'll be growled at and all sorts of things. And the amount of times that people said, I sent my puppy off and now my puppy is like 7 months old, and actually they're really scared of other dogs and they don't want to go. And they've started growling and barking at other dogs, and it's obviously just been far too much for them. All this thing around puppy parties and dog parties, and you do have to look at each individual dog and what they're a bit like with people. Some people are super social, and some people just want to stay in their home and only mix with their families. But we've really, I think, as a society in the dog world, done our dogs a disservice in terms of the push that sometimes is made on doing loads with our dogs, tiring them out, having loads of fun, playing with loads of other dogs. Like when I look at, if I run, when I have my puppy classes running, I limit it to 4 or 5 puppies. I try and make it very like calm. And you hear about some of these puppy parties and there's 20 or more puppies tearing around, and think about how overwhelming that must be. Hugely overwhelming for them, and that in itself can spark a whole myriad of behavioral issues, because they often will be communicating that they're not comfortable. They may be hiding, they may be growling, their tail may be tucked, and often those signs are completely missed or disregarded. And then where do they go from there? And often this myriad of behavioral issues can just pop up from there. And you can work on those things, but it's very difficult to get it back to square one, to get them back to that empty slate. Yeah, it's quite upsetting. And then often when you're having these discussions with owners, they get very upset because they have always just wanted what is best for their dog, and that is what the majority of us want. And they're not in the wrong. It's confusing out there. It's a bit of a wild west of everyone is marketing, this is best for your dog, this is what you need for your dog. The dog industry is huge, and yeah, it's really confusing out there, I think.
It is. I think even myself, I mean, obviously I know kind of a little bit better now on this journey, what kind of things to look for, but I'm still amazed at how polarizing things can be. And I tend to notice a pattern around confidence. I think about it in terms of sometimes we would attach authority, trust to the loudest person in the room.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that that person is the most competent, the most respectable, etc., etc. And it's really interesting how I've seen a correlation in some of the louder and some of the most expressive and some of the most opinionated perspectives having the bigger following and therefore the bigger client base. And that is concerning, what that signals to people in terms of, okay, he must be confident. I think he knows what he's talking about.
And we're living
meanwhile
in a
not being
world,
able,
and people will get these snippets off social media or off certain television shows. Firstly, I look at the editing and I think well, say if it's a TV show, who I'm sure you can imagine what one I'm talking, I won't mention names. I'm thinking, but that is edited together. That isn't happening in real time. But also people just, they look at this illusion of this quick fix. There are certain things that you can fix quite quickly. The majority though, if you're looking at a dog that has a lot of fear, for example, and maybe is guarding because of that fear, or has separation anxiety, or they're not quick fixes. They're often the truth is quite slow and quite boring though. So when you're working with people, it often is a bit of a drip, 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 but there is that progress there. But living in a world, unfortunately, where that's not what people want to hear. They literally want to, and not very often, thankfully, but I've had it where people will expect within the hour that I meet with them that all of the issues they are having with their dog will go. That isn't good. That isn't going to happen. I haven't got a magic wand.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate that those sort of that quick social media type world that we're living in will get the follows and will get the bigger client bases. Yeah.
Yeah. We have this expectation on our dogs that they should be able to change their behavior quite quickly. And when we look at ourselves, and
Yeah.
perhaps we've got our own challenges,
Yeah.
quitting smoking, waking up earlier, going to bed earlier, whatever it would be, fitness, dieting. There are so many obstacles to changing our own behavior, yet we have an expectation often that these creatures have to adapt much faster than we would.
And often we're so understanding with people. It's like like when a baby teeths, we totally understand that they're going to be grizzly. And when a puppy teeths and they're chewing things, we're like, why are they chewing things? Or, if a person is scared of, whatever they're scared of, whatever their fear is, we can understand that and empathize with it. And I think, for example, if a dog is scared of maybe being left alone, there's such a frustration there, which I do understand. Like, yeah, that as an example, I understand it makes things very difficult. Also, it's understanding that there's no quick magical fix for those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Elena suggested I reach out to you about
Yeah.
this very topic because since I've had Duna, which is just over a month now, actually closer to 2 months, she's made such progress. So, since I've had her, I've not really had much of a social life, and leaving her just to take the rubbish out,
Mhm.
doesn't like that. Nipping to the shop, doesn't like that. In general, she struggles when I
Yeah.
leave. And I was taught by another behaviorist that you kind of like create gradual,
Mm.
desensitization, or building that trust that you will come back, or that object permanence. I don't even know what it's called, but you will come back and they get used to it. But what I found is that real life doesn't work that way.
Mm.
I can't get her used to small amounts of time where I leave and then come back, because I might have to nip out to the post office. That's not a 10-minute thing necessarily, or I might need to take something to my storage unit, or whatever it might be. So, yeah, just out of curiosity, how does one, not so much in training tips, but what do you think is going on for Galgos, because you have this background with your own Galgo and with rescue dogs in general?
Well, yeah, firstly, with the separation anxiety, completely empathize. I did my training with Julie Naismith, who's great. Yeah, she's brilliant in terms of learning about all things separation anxiety. Um, and definitely the training that I help people do, I do think really helps. And that is that slow drip, 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 getting them used to. For some dogs, it may just be going to the front door and back, and them going out of the door and coming back in, and taking the bins out and coming back in, and doing these sort of, I would put together daily training sessions for people to do, where they might do 2 or 3 short sessions in a day. And you do find that there is definitely this improvement where suddenly a dog can be left for, might just be a minute, and people will be like celebrating, be like, I went down the road and came back and my dog was okay. And then that just builds and builds. However, again, being a mum now and having young kids, I totally empathize with people that say, well, I can't, I have to leave them, or I don't I'm living on my own. So when I need to go to the doctors and I need to go out for an hour, and it's really challenging. But we always try and like troubleshoot and work out around those issues. Is there anyone that could come over when you're going out? Do you have family nearby? Is there any way that we could do this training and even if we're not completely cutting it out, minimize Because what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to minimize the amount of time the dog is being left alone where they're thinking the world is crumbling. Because every time they're left alone and they think it's the end of the world and they're having this panic, it reinforces in them that being left is really scary. So ideally, you would only be leaving them when you're doing this structured training. However, I totally get that for some people, that is just impossible. So sometimes it is working in like, okay, well, look, I'll go up. I'll make sure my husband's here. My sister lives down the road. She can pop over. And other times it's just trying to minimize things and do what you can and hope that it might be a bit of a longer journey, but you're going in that direction. Yeah, with Galgos, we were very lucky with Reyna. I think partly because she really got a lot of confidence from Ivy. I mean, the first month she just followed Ivy around. And I don't think she really cared that we weren't there, if I'm honest. She didn't bond to us, I would say, the first month. It took time. So I think day one, we went out for a 5-minute walk, came back. If anything, she was like, oh no, they're back. And we just did that every day. We would just go out for a little walk and we built and built. And we were just really lucky that, yeah, we didn't have any issues with her. It is definitely, I think with all rescue dogs and particularly the Galgos, if you, there's certain issues that you can run into, I think with rescues, and especially rescues that might have had, not saying that all of the Galgos have, but a lot of them have come from quite traumatic pasts. You know, look at Reyna with all the scars in her one ear. But they've all come from different places, but a lot of them will have been through some sort of trauma or not a very nice start in life. And they have no like rooting or feeling of safety. And then we bring them over and it's natural, like definitely separation is something they could have because suddenly they have this person that they're connecting to and they might have never actually been on their own before. They might have not been in a home, but they might have always been surrounded by other dogs. They might have been in a busy kennel environment, loads of noise, lots of things going on. So to suddenly be in a home on your own with not a lot of noise around you and the person that you're building that bond with and feeling safe with, that your whole ability to feel safe is with that person goes away, you can imagine, like, if you're putting yourself in their feet, in their shoes, how that would feel. Likewise, and I will say that with some of the Galgos we bring over, actually, they fit in so easily and so effortlessly. And like I say, with Reyna, we've been very lucky. Apart from her being very timid, she just sort of fit in with us very, very cohesively. But other issues that we might get, like you said, I work as a behaviorist for Project Galgo. Some dogs may just be completely overwhelmed. And we always say when the Galgos come to your home, just do nothing with them. Let them adapt. Let them sleep. Most of them haven't slept properly and they've been in busy environments that have been noisy and they might not have been getting enough food and they're underweight. So let them eat, let them sleep, let them rest, let them build that feeling of actually being safe. They're not going to get moved again. Nothing bad is going to happen to them. Then start taking them out, but take them to quiet areas. They don't have to go out to the park and meet all the dogs on the first day. Anything like that might just be far too much for them. Take them out for small, quiet sniffs. Some dogs may be a bit reactive because maybe just being outside in a big open park where there's dogs and bikes and kids, it might just be so overwhelming and their way of dealing with it is to bark or to lunge. Some dogs may do a little bit of guarding at first because suddenly they've got a really comfy bed, or they find they've never been on a sofa before and they may not want the other resident dog to come near them on the sofa, or they may be so hungry they want to eat all of the food, and so there may be some guarding issues. So all of these things are perfectly natural and most of them can be worked through, but worked through with kindness and patience. So that's part of my role, is to help support people with that, because often they're I'll ask you actually, have you had Galgos before, rescues before? No?
No, never before. No, I was a volunteer dog walker for about 5 years before being able to, because I've always wanted to have my own dog. But, I was renting up until recently. And once I was able to, I was like, that's it, I can foster now. So I got Duna and it happened really, really quickly. So in terms of mindset, I didn't even know what kind of mindset to have or what to expect. I think I had this fantasy or vision of, me and my dog, we're going to go grab a coffee in the morning and then we're going to go for a little walk and da-da-da. But actually it's been quite the opposite. Duna only walks around the block. She doesn't like to go even cross the road. She just shuts down or body blocks me. any kind of cafe situation, a shop, no, not interested. So that is our life at the moment,
Yeah.
going around the block. And if I leave home, she'll bark. But the interesting thing is, I've spoken with lots of people and they tend to liken it to leaving a baby to cry. And my thoughts have been, I can't do that.
Mm.
She's not feeling safe. She's not feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you see some parallels there in terms of kind of what's best, I guess, for the dog and your relationship?
Definitely. I mean, everyone has their different views on it. Me as a person, I think generally I've looked after my dogs the way I've looked after my kids. There's been a lot of parallels in terms of I'm not one to leave them to cry. If I can help them, I will. Yeah, it just has never felt comfortable with me. And we know with with dogs with separation anxiety, it comes down to temperament, and actually it's very similar to babies, because I think if you leave babies to cry, there are some who very quickly will cry, and then will be able to soothe themselves and just sort of get it very quickly. And some dogs will
Mhm.
cry, and then, their temperament is very, I would say they haven't got separation anxiety. They might just not really like being alone, and they will very quickly get used to being alone. However, for the majority of dogs, and for the majority of babies, crying and crying and crying, it just isn't gonna, like, with dogs, it will often, the separation anxiety could get worse. It definitely could get worse, because if they do have separation anxiety and they are expressing that through crying and howling, and they are being left alone for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 hours regularly with this anxiety, um, I would say there's a lot of dogs that wouldn't benefit. And I think sometimes people have had a very placid dog that hasn't really been that bothered about being left. And they've gone, oh, I left them once, and they whined a bit, then they were fine. So that's what you should do. But you have to look at your individual dog. And if you feel like your dog is getting really distressed when you leave, I mean, there's plenty of people that have tried leaving them to cry out, and then they reach out to me or other behaviorists because they're like, the neighbors are complaining, and we come home and the furniture's been destroyed, or they've weed everywhere, or they're defecating. And so it's looking at what the other options are, because no one wants their dog alone, upset for hours. That's an awful feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you like leave them. So I've left Duna before, maybe
Yeah.
20 minutes. And from the moment I've left, I've heard her
Um,
barking. And when I come back, she's still barking. And
yeah.
I'm just thinking, oh my God, that's so stressful. That must be a lot of stress back in the body,
Yeah.
after all that time we spent with decompressing,
But it's stressful
and
for you as
building
well.
that
And you need
trust.
to give yourself some grace as well, because you when you don't have that support of having other people that are in your home that can be like, oh, I'll watch her while you pop out, it's incredibly, incredibly difficult.
It can be really restrictive. I
Yeah.
think the thing that I found most interesting is just the mindset. It's so easy for me to assume that other people are going to treat Duna the way that I do, but I realize I'm part of a minority.
Yeah.
You kind of have to really be invested in the dog to want to, give her the best life. And I'm not talking about being permissive. I
Mhm.
don't think that is
No.
relevant in this context because I don't believe that dogs are naughty. In her case, it's about making her feel safe
Yeah.
and kind of giving her the opportunities in the life that she did not have before.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I have left her with other people, what I've found is that she will hold everything in until I get home and then release
Mhm.
indoors. And that tells me that was not maybe an ideal experience
Yeah.
for her. But recently I have found dog sitters, and the way I kind of recruited them was different because I was looking for very specific things, and they've come over and it's been a bit of a process, and I've
Mhm.
observed them with her and learn more about their philosophy and their approach to dogs because I'm very much focused on dog centered. I want people who
Yeah.
see dogs as opposed to the opposite. So there is light at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel, but I think it was so important to get to this point. I think Duna has shown me that she's like a Velcro dog, really. She just always wants to be near me. And I am a bit fearful with regards to how she's going to respond to this, but we're going to do it in small increments, getting her used to being around other people and me not being here
I'm so glad
and
you
build
said
up to
that,
a
because
weekend.
honestly, that is the advice often I'll give people who are in your situation. It's because if people are in a family or they're living in a bigger group, often I'm talking about like spreading love, because often it's very natural that a dog will really bond with one person. Often you'll find that one person is doing all the walks or the feeding, a lot of the care. So it's often thinking, right, well, how can we broaden that dog's horizons a little bit so that they feel safe? They might not be as happy with every single person, but just so they feel safe um, with a few other people to lighten the load off your shoulders. So absolutely, yeah. If I were you, I'd be looking at, right, well, could I, are there any friends nearby that she would be comfortable with? Are there any dog sitters or dog walkers that I could get in touch with and I did exactly that. So we've got a great dog walker called Izzy, who, because both my dogs, they're a bit, they have their quirks. They're sort of really easy, but also, Reyna's a bit of a flight risk. Reyna is very nervous of people she doesn't know. Ivy's a bit dog fussy, so it was really important we found the right um, dog walker. And she only takes about once a week. But things like when I went into labour, we called Izzy. She's our person. If like whatever happens, we know that there's
Yeah.
someone that the dogs will feel safe with who can come over. And I know a good dog walker when they say, well, look, I think she'll be too. I won't just take them out because I don't think they trust me enough. I'll come out on walks with you. And then she would just come over for cups of tea. And we definitely built that trust. And now, I mean, Ivy loves anyone with a treat, but Reyna loves her. Yeah. And it's really nice to feel like you're broadening their horizon a little bit. And definitely, I think it's so
Yeah.
much pressure on one person. If you have a needy dog, a Velcro dog, a dog with separation anxiety, it's so much pressure on that one person. Um,
Yeah.
because generally I think most people are empathic people. I think to feel like you can't do anything that's gonna make them distraught is
On the dog.
it's tough. But I'm glad that you're getting that help.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it actually. But yeah, it's a process. I think like this kind of leads nicely to I guess I wanted to ask you for other people to really consider fostering. So perhaps maybe you could highlight some of the benefits of fostering, especially with Project Galgo, maybe.
Yes.
And then also, what kind of mindset is really important prior to starting to foster so that people can really understand what they're getting into?
Yeah. The firstly, I mean, fostering, it's so important and so needed. And yeah, I am definitely part of the foster fail club. But I mean, Project Galgo would not be able to function without the network of amazing fosterers that we have. And what it means is that these dogs, like I said, some of them have, quite traumatized. Some of them have been treated badly by people. That most of them have never been in a home. Some of them have only lived in a kennel sort of environment. Without the project, without the network of fosterers, it would mean that they would just go into kennels and we wouldn't have any idea about that dog and what was best suited to that dog. And the dog would then try and be rehomed with no idea of what that dog is like, and the dog would be so pent up. And then what you have is a lot more people returning dogs, and then where did they return to? They return back to kennels. So having the fosterers means that these dogs can come over. Often they've not had a very nice life so far, and then they have a comfortable place where they feel safe and they can sleep and they can rest and it's nice and they can learn that people are nice, because sometimes their only interaction to people might have been quite negative. It's also quite common that Galgos are a bit wary of men. So for some, that's a bigger issue than others, but they can start to learn that men actually, some men are okay. They can have this safe place where they can decompress, and this decompressing time is so important. They catch up on sleep, they rest, they eat, they start to feel a little bit grounded again in the world. Their stress bucket starts to just get a little bit lower. Everything just seems a bit more doable. They eat, they put on a bit of weight. And most importantly, the fosterers can look at this dog and go, oh, do you know what? This dog is a pleasure. Like, it's great. I think it'd be great with a family. It's got so much energy. It loves running around with our kids. It loves a cuddle, loves this. Or they might say, this dog is brilliant proper Velcro dog though, so you need to keep that in mind wherever it's going to go, because it really doesn't like to be left alone. Maybe it might be comfortable with a resident dog. Maybe this dog actually, through being at foster, you've realized actually it doesn't really like being around the other dog, because it actually quite likes having the sofa to itself. It might be better as an only dog. So we get all this information from people, these wonderful fosterers, that I mean, I should say that the team I work with at Project Galgo are brilliant, and Helena and Camilla do the majority of the enormous amount of work, and then Penny Clayton also does a lot of work as behaviourist there, and they're all working like tirelessly to look after these dogs and make sure they
I
all get
know.
a good life.
Yeah.
But it means that they then can look at all this information given from the dog and give the dog time and space to start to be comfortable, start to maybe go out into the world and sort of safe, sniffy walks. Constantly, our information is, they're going to be overwhelmed. We don't have to do too much with them. Enrichment, choose, all these ways that dogs can just start to decompress. But we take all this information and then we can try and match them with, the right home for them. And then they can go from one comfortable home to another comfortable home, which we hope is going to be a good fit. And we hope that by then we know actually this dog needs to be with another dog, or this dog is surprisingly great with cats, because maybe a fosterer has had a cat and they've done an introduction and that's gone really well, and the dog is really placid. We think, well, that's amazing. So we can home it with someone with cats. But all of this stuff, it's an amazing thing to do. And I think it's one of the hardest things to do. And like I say, I failed at it, but I think it takes we've got many fosterers who foster again and again and again for us. We also have many foster fails. It's a big club, the foster fail family. But
yeah, I would join it. I'm very tempted.
I was gonna say I didn't want to.
Yeah, no, since day one, I've thought, I want her.
There's no shame in it. It was like with Reyna, she just fit into our lives, and we're so glad that she stayed with us. However, the people that foster, I don't think it's ever easy for them to say goodbye. Sometimes they might have these dogs with them for months. Sometimes they've got family and kids, and then they have to say goodbye to this dog, and it goes to somewhere else. And that is, really heartbreaking. Then they'll take in another dog for us, and it's amazing. It's invaluable, really. And like Project Galgo wouldn't be able to function the way it does without them. I guess I would say, there's anyone out there that feels like they would like to foster, we're always looking for new fosterers. And I guess in terms of things to keep in mind, obviously, you have some natural sight houndy things. So a lot of them will have the high prey drive. Some actually can live with cats, but the majority can't. They also will have totally lacked certain forms of socialization. So things like in the house, the Hoover, the washing machine, that might scare them. Noises of, say about going to a coffee shop. It's funny because where we used to live, we used to have to walk past a coffee shop to get to the park. And Reyna was terrified of it. And for her, it was the bang, 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 like the metal, like when they'd empty the coffee. Bang, bang, bang. And she would throw herself to the ground like she was some sort of splattered frog. Like her legs would just go out. She hated that noise. We wouldn't even think about that because of the way that we often with puppies, they just sort of get used to the world. And then you would never think that something like that would terrify them so much. But these little noises, these little things that they've not known before can really, really, terrify them. So our advice is always, prepare yourself as best you can. There's loads of resources with Project Galgo if you were going to foster with us. But just be aware that, these dogs often have never been in a home. They've never been on a sofa. They might have always been just that bit hungry. They might be a bit underweight. They might have only ever seen other Galgos and not seen other breeds of dog. So there's so much that you just need to keep in mind and really resist the urge. And I know it's so tough, but just resist the urge to think, I've got this dog. I'm going to have my friend come over to meet them. I'm going to have my family over. I really want to go out on a dog walk with my friend and her dog. And it's just time and decompressing. And I remember actually, again, it's different views and people have to approach it from what way that feels is best, is the right thing for them. But I remember speaking to someone who had gotten advice from another rescue to keep their dog in a crate for the first 48 hours so that their dog could feel safe in the crate, and then slowly let them in one room and then slowly expand their world. That isn't how I work. And generally, like,
I wouldn't have done that.
obviously, like with having the young kids now, we do have some baby gates in place in terms of management, but generally we have an open door policy, and it's very much, where does the dog feel safe? Where do they want to be? Reyna really loves being at the top of the stairs. I think she just feels safe overlooking the house.
Like a queen,
Yeah,
like
the
the queen
queen
that she
Reyna,
is.
just overlooking things. But just see, where do they feel safe? What can we give them to feel safe? How can we help them find their feet? For me, putting them in little boxes and being like, well, you have to do this and you have to do that. It's not going to help them
Yeah.
decompress.
So I guess ultimately the mindset is you don't have to do anything. There is no expectation. When you foster or when you rescue, really is, I think what's been a common thread throughout our conversation is personalization, seeing the individual
Yeah.
and seeing the individual's needs and being able to meet those needs for them
As best as
as
you
opposed to,
can, as best as you can. And yeah, you might, if you foster, you might get a dog that really wants to sleep in your bedroom. And then there's that talk on, okay, well, are you comfortable with a dog being on your bed? Are you comfortable with the dog being in your room on a dog bed? Or you might get a dog that wants to be as far away from you as possible for those first few weeks and not be in a room with you. And again, that is another, we bring this dog in expecting that this dog is going to love us. And actually, like, at first with Reyna, she didn't want to be anywhere near me. And that
yeah,
is
oh,
another,
really?
at first, yeah, she was very scared of all people. She was a definite flight risk. Like, I think if we'd have left our door open a crack, she'd have been gone and we'd never seen her again. There was a click in her brain, I would say about 3 or 4 weeks in. I remember I used to open the front door and I would see her running down the corridor. And then one day I opened the door and she came running towards me. And it was like, she suddenly is like, it's you. And something had changed in her brain. But that is wonderful. And that is one of the reasons we decided to keep her, because it just felt like, no, she's,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, she was just, yeah, she needed a bit of time and then she warmed to you.
Yeah.
So I guess that's so magical, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
so beautiful to see the transition, to
Yeah.
see that bond form and them learning to trust and learning like to show a bit
Yeah.
more of themselves and know that they are safe.
And they don't have to be young dogs. They can be quite old dogs and they can learn these things. Like you say, they might not, you might get a 10, 11-year-old dog and it might not be that you can, take them to the busy park or to a picnic or barbecue, whatever. But you definitely can make such progress with them quite quickly, just in terms of them feeling, it's just safety. I think safety, if there's one takeaway, it's just, how can I help this dog feel safe? Because everything else comes from that. And safety looks different to other dogs. So for some dogs, safety is eating their meal in peace without other people around. For some dogs, safety is being as close as they can be to a human when they're sleeping and not being on their own. Safety has different forms, but it's looking at that dog and thinking, right, what does this dog need to feel safe?
It's so funny you mentioned about sleeping. Duna would sleep on me if she
Oh,
could.
really?
I've gradually, I would like get on in the bed and in like, I don't know,
So I should
she'll
say,
be
look,
next
look
to
who's
me.
joined us. No.
Oh, Reynita.
Good.
Hello, Reyna. Oh, she's gorgeous. Oh, it just hurts my heart to see the scars.
I know. It does. I feel really angry. I sometimes think, like, if I yeah, it's just, you just think, how? They're so, yeah, like with Reyna, she is just the most gentle soul. She really is. She's just like this little gentle, it's like sharing my house with a really gentle, timid deer. And you just think, how could someone hurt her? It's just, yeah.
Unfathomable.
I know that cutting the ear can be a common punishment for things like stealing food or, but then you think, wow, what a consequence for taking food when you're hungry. Like,
Yeah,
if that is what we think naughty is, and they're just trying to eat, it's mad, isn't it?
it really is, Sam. It's really, really lovely to have met you finally and then also have a chat with you. I've learned so much from our conversation, and I think ultimately just what oozes out of you is empathy and warmth. And I just think your dogs are so lucky to have you as their mum
Yeah.
and your kids, obviously.
Yeah, I'm still her mum. And we've already got like trips planned on what week she'll be here and there. But yeah, it's like you say, it's taking each individual dog and thinking, right, what do they need right now and what's the best for them. But yeah,
What's the best for them? Yeah, it's really hard because it means we have to put our own needs aside.
definitely.
And I think that's the crux of this episode, is being comfortable with that and doing what's right for them. So I commend you on realizing that and caring enough to make sure that what's left of her time, will enjoy that
Yeah.
time and not be stressed and fearful.
Well, I hope all the best for yourself and Duna as well. And always just from the Project Galgo team, support either way, whether you decide that actually you couldn't bear to part with her, or you decide actually you want to just be multiple fostering. Either way, it's wonderful, and you'll get support.
Oh, 100%. You know what? I was thinking the other day, of all of the different rescues charities that I could have chosen as a start to my fostering journey, I just think Project Galgo is incredible. Incredible. The amount of support I've received, responses at like God knows what time in the evening. They're always on. They're always trying to help. And I just think it's incredible. It sets the bar really high. Nobody paid me to say any of this. This is just my own lived experience. And it's lovely because that means that the support that I'm getting is the support the dogs are getting. I think that sends a clear message to me.
Above and beyond. I'm just such a very, very small cog in it, but the amount of time and love that is put in to helping them, trying to better dogs' lives is amazing.
Yeah. And it's personal. It feels very high touch.
I think if people do feel like they've got the the time and the ability to foster, I think it's such a fulfilling experience to feel like you are changing this dog's course in life, and they're on this course, and they've got a lot of trauma and a lot of upset and a lot of stress, and then you are sort of changing tact and giving them a new start is really such a great thing to do.
It's amazing. And it's not like an overnight thing. It's so gradual and it's so subtle that, it's not like, oh, ta-da, cured, saved, it's like, and in that process, you change as an individual as well, because you learn about yourself, your capacity for love, your patience, your, empathy and all that kind of stuff. So it really is a win-win in many ways. But yeah. Anyways, I will let you go because obviously you're being called. You're being summoned.
She wants to go outside. She's very good at letting me know what she needs.
Thank you for chatting with me today. I'll speak to you again soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Sam.